Oh, here it goes.
If you grew up watching Nickelodeon, shows like Kenan and Kel, SpongeBob SquarePants, iCarly or All That probably shaped your childhood. Nickelodeon was the coolest and funnest channel around, and we watched it in our millions. But beyond the slime, bright colours and catchy theme songs, there is a much darker story of what was really going on at Nickelodeon Studios, and how the dreams of many child stars became a living nightmare. Today we're peering behind the curtain at the network's darkest moments, from toxic workplaces to disturbing abuse allegations. This is the full story. This is the dark history of Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon launched in 1977 as Pinwheel on a cable system in Ohio, and was the first channel dedicated to children's programming. Renamed Nickelodeon in 1979, it initially aired educational shows like Pinwheel and America Goes Bananas. In 1981, it became a national cable channel, introducing a kid-centric identity with a silver bull logo. The 1980s saw Nickelodeon carve a unique niche with innovative programming. Shows like You Can't Do That on Television popularised the channel's signature green slime, while Double Dare brought interactive game shows to kids.
The slimiest, messiest, squishiest game show on television is coming soon, and it's called...
Macadamia nuts?
No.
Donkey Kong.
No!
Double Dare.
There you go! Double Dare! Where if you don't know the answer, it could mean...
Physical challenge.
Go! Watch for Double Dare! Beginning Monday, February...
The launch of Nick at Night in 1985 offered nostalgic reruns for adults of classic shows such as Roseanne and The Cosby Show, further broadening its appeal. It was in the 1990s, however, that Nickelodeon became a cultural juggernaut. The creation of Nicktoons in 1991 introduced iconic animated series like Doug, Rugrats, Hey Arnold and The Ren and Stimpy Show. Live action hits like All That, Kenan and Kel, my favourite, and Clarissa Explains It All solidified its dominance. The opening of Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida in the 90s allowed fans to experience live tapings, and the channel's slime-filled events like the Kids' Choice Awards became staples. The 2000s brought further global expansion and blockbuster shows under producer Dan Schneider, who, yes, we will be talking about at length in this video. This included Drake and Josh, iCarly and Victorious. SpongeBob SquarePants became a cultural phenomenon, driving merchandise and theme park attractions. In the 2010s and 20s, Nickelodeon adapted to streaming with content on Paramount Plus and embraced digital platforms like YouTube. Hits like The Loud House and Paw Patrol have kept Nickelodeon relevant, but it has struggled to regain the hold it had in the 90s and noughties in the digital age. But over the past year, revelations and allegations have come close to completely destroying Nickelodeon's image. So, where did it all go so wrong? Let's dive in. Before we begin, a disclaimer: YouTube shadow bans videos if they contain certain words and phrases. And therefore, in this video, I'm going to avoid using particular words and phrases, but I'm sure you can work out what I'm really trying to say. So, first up, we have to talk, of course, about Dan Schneider, the man behind some of Nickelodeon's biggest hits. Schneider was a powerhouse producer, creating shows like The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, and iCarly. But in 2018, Nickelodeon dramatically parted ways with him after dozens of allegations surfaced. In the past 2 years, Dan Schneider has faced significant allegations of misconduct. These allegations, detailed by former child actors, crew members and writers at Nickelodeon, paint a very troubling picture of the work environment at Nickelodeon during Schneider's time during the 1990s and 2000s. Former cast on Schneider's sets, including on All That, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, iCarly and Victorious, have all described a hostile work environment marked by verbal abuse, humiliation and unprofessional conduct, all taking place in plain sight on a network made for kids. The allegations are numerous and detailed, but they all build into a pretty clear picture and pattern. Let's go through some of them now. Jeanette McCurdy, the star of iCarly and Sam and Cat, has been vocal about her negative experiences working with Dan Schneider. In her memoir, I'm Glad My Mum Died, and in subsequent interviews, she refers to somebody known as the Creator, who is widely understood to be Schneider, given his role as the creator of iCarly and Sam and Cat. McCurdy described Schneider as a mean-spirited, controlling and terrifying person, alleging that he created a toxic work environment. She says he was prone to outbursts, that he could make grown men and women cry with his insults and degradation. She recounted instances when Schneider shouted at her in front of the whole crew and forced her to reshoot her first ever on-screen kiss 7 times, creating a huge amount of discomfort. Additionally, she claimed that Schneider photographed her in a bikini on set, which she says was inappropriate, especially giving her discomfort at wearing such items of clothes. She also alleges that when she was 18, that Schneider pressured her to drink alcohol during a dinner, despite her initial refusal, and gave her an unwanted shoulder massage, which made her understandably feel uncomfortable. She details how Schneider had a pattern of taking new stars under his wing, making them feel favoured temporarily before knocking them down, which she now recognises is manipulative. McCurdy has said that her time working under the Creator, who everyone thinks is Schneider, contributed to significant emotional distress. She wrote about feeling hopeless and carrying a sense of despair during her final days at Nickelodeon. Take a look at this exclusive behind-the-scene clip from iCarly and see what you think of Schneider's behaviour. He's the one holding the camera and whose voice you can hear.
Okay, better on that time, but still, keep the attitude a little more where we were when you turned to him for the, you brighten it up a little bit. Okay, well, I still thought it was great, and then stop. Look more.
Stop laughing at the director. Show some respect, Jeanette. Respect. No smiling. All right. Take $100 off her check. Why are you people all yellow? Why do you look like Simpsons characters?
Why do we come out yellow? I play this extra.
Don't stare at me like that. You're scaring me.
Sorry.
The fans still don't know who you are.
They will.
Take a look at her, and then you've seen that face before. Here we go. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go. All right.
But no, it's just the oh man, but it's that attitude.
Oh yeah. I was gonna say, oh man, here we go. All right.
I'll do that.
Okay.
That'd be bad.
What's with the boots? Why is Carly
I
always
know.
wearing
I'm always
boots?
wearing these boots.
So she can be in combat at any moment.
I want to wear boots.
What?
I'm becoming shorter and shorter by the week.
You know what? I think everybody's getting tired of your attitude.
Right. I'll buy you some lifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Want to go to the lift shop?
Shockingly, McCurdy revealed that Nickelodeon offered her $300,000 to remain silent about her experiences on set, particularly those regarding Schneider's behaviour. She described this as hush money, declining the offer, and she chose to speak out to maintain her integrity. McCurdy's accounts have been consistent across her memoir and public statements, painting a picture of Schneider as a domineering figure whose actions ranged from emotionally abusive to inappropriate, significantly impacting her well-being as a young child star. While she has not named Schneider explicitly in her book, likely for legal reasons, the context and details strongly implicate him. After complaints began to grow, his behaviour became so bad that he was no longer allowed on set with children and would end up having to direct the shows from a different room down the corridor. Other stars have come out to back up her account. All that, and Keenan and Kel star Kel Mitchell says Schneider put him in a closet and yelled at him when Mitchell was a teenager, something he later described as intimidating. In an interview, he said, "I remember me and Dan had a big argument on set. He was like, let's go over here to this room right here in this closet. He closed the door and he just took off yelling all this wild stuff." Schneider has also been accused of behaving inappropriately with some of the young actresses who appeared in the shows he developed. Alexa Nicholas, who appeared in Zoe 101 for 2 seasons, has said that during her time on the show, she did not feel safe around Schneider, and that he pressured her to wear revealing clothing, and when she complained about the way her co-star Jamie Lynn Spears was being treated by him, he reacted by screaming at her. She has spoken out about her treatment by Nickelodeon and has now started a pressure group called Eat Predators, whose aim is to highlight and root out predatory behaviour in Hollywood. Laurie Beth Denberg, who appeared on All That from 1994 to 1998, accused Schneider of touching her inappropriately, showing her adult material, and attempting to initiate phone with her when she was 19. Denberg also accused Schneider of having her banned from the set of The Amanda Show after she voiced concerns for the well-being of the show's star, her friend Amanda Bynes. Female writers like Jemmy Kilgan at The Amanda Show claimed also that he was sexist, and some staff reported that he asked for massages from female colleagues. Victoria Justice, star of Victorious, stated that Schneider's very large ego clouded his judgment, and stated that he would single out individuals, leading to unfair treatment of cast and crew. The allegations continue. Keke Palmer, mother of Sharon Palmer, described Schneider's sets as very weird and cultish, saying that there was a secretive atmosphere and excessive seriousness among parents and crew. Christy Stratton and Jenny Kilgan, 2 writers who worked on The Amanda Show, presented further allegations that Schneider's writing room was rife with inappropriate language and behaviour to the point that Schneider was showing adult material on his computer screen. In total then, the allegations are that Schneider created a toxic environment, shouted and humiliated cast and crew, including children, and behaved at the very least sexually inappropriately. Many of the allegations were brought to prominence in the Quiet on Set docuseries. What's incredible about all of this is that, of course, Nickelodeon would have been aware of this. These were not closed sets. This behaviour was happening in plain sight. And this was supposed to be a TV network for children, starring children. The question for Nickelodeon then is, where was the safeguarding? Where was the oversight? How could they simply let this behaviour go by? Was it simply because Schneider was making them so much money? Would Nickelodeon really be that ruthless? You'll have to answer that one. As the noise around the allegations began to get louder, Nickelodeon cut ties with Schneider in 2008 after a Viacom CBS investigation confirmed verbal abuse but found no evidence of sexual misconduct. Nickelodeon addressed the allegations in a statement to US Weekly, expressing dismay at the claims but not directly refuting them. The network emphasised its commitment to investigating all formal complaints and maintaining a safe work environment, although some might say it's a bit late for that now. As for Schneider, in March 2024, he released a video apologising for certain behaviours. He expressed regret for his past actions, including making people feel uncomfortable and asking cast and crew for neck massages on set. Schneider admitted to mistakes and poor judgment, particularly during his time at Nickelodeon, but maintained that these were not connected to any age abuse. To be clear, there are no allegations of any underage abuse from anyone, something that Schneider is also at pains to emphasise. In fact, in May last year, Schneider filed a defamation lawsuit against the producers of Quiet on Set, alleging that the docuseries falsely implied he was a abuser or complicit in the abuse by others. A California judge ruled in November 2024 that Schneider could proceed with the lawsuit, and so watch this space. But if the allegations against Schneider are troubling or disturbing, it's about to get a lot worse. Because now, we need to talk, unfortunately, about Brian Peck. Brian Peck worked in the entertainment industry, particularly on children's TV shows during the late 90s and early noughties. Peck was employed by Nickelodeon as a dialogue coach on shows like The Amanda Show and All That, and he occasionally even appeared on screen, notably as Pickle Boy in All That sketches.
He hates pickles. Pickle Boy. His pickles taste bad. Pickle Boy likes to hurt and tease pickles. Pickle Boy, the best pickle boy in the world. Now you know, Pickle Boy.
In August 2003, Peck was arrested on 11 charges of sexual misconduct, including several offences upon a person under 16. He was sentenced to 16 months in prison and required to register as a offender for life. Drake and Josh star Drake Bell publicly disclosed in 2024 that he was in fact Peck's victim. Drake details the extensive and brutal abuse he endured, which occurred at Peck's home where Bell stayed for auditions and coaching. Shockingly, after his sentence, Peck was hired by the Disney Channel in 2006 to perform voiceover work for 3 episodes of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. Disney claimed that they were unaware of his conviction initially, and he was terminated and his voiceovers replaced once his true history was discovered. However, his ability to secure work on a children's show post-conviction raises serious concerns about industry oversight and background checks. Critics, including Drake Bell, expressed outrage that Peck was allowed to work in Hollywood again, particularly on sets with minors, highlighting significant gaps in child protection laws. During Peck's 2004 trial, 41 individuals, including prominent actors like James Marden, wrote letters of support for Peck, urging leniency. These letters devastated Drake Bell, who noted that the courtroom was filled with Brian Peck's supporters, including some of those recognisable faces. Kyle Sullivan, who performed with Peck in the Nickelodeon show All That, has recounted that Brian Peck had correspondence with the serial killer John Wayne Gacy. Sullivan, who visited Peck's residence at the age of 14, recalled observing a significant volume of written communication between Peck and Gacy. Sullivan asserts that Gacy, who pursued painting while on death row, purportedly sent Peck an autographed painting of a clown, which Peck reportedly displayed in his residence at the time. Peck was eventually convicted and sentenced to 14 years in prison. Before Peck's 2003 arrest, there were no documented reports or whistleblower accounts indicating that Nickelodeon executives or staff were explicitly aware of his criminal behaviour. After Peck's arrest in 2003, Nickelodeon would have been informed, as he was actively working on their shows. The network has not publicly detailed its internal response at the time, but Peck did not work for Nickelodeon again after his arrest. Nickelodeon has expressed sadness over Drake Bell's trauma, stating, "Now that Drake Bell has disclosed his identity as the plaintiff in the 2004 case, we are dismayed and saddened to learn of the trauma he has endured, and we commend and support the strength required to come forward." The statement neatly avoids addressing what the network knew or did not know in 2003 to 2004, instead focusing on their general policies at the time. They say, "Though we cannot corroborate or negate allegations of behaviours from productions decades ago, Nickelodeon, as a matter of policy, investigates all formal complaints as part of our commitment to fostering a safe and professional workplace, free of harassment or other kinds of inappropriate conduct." I don't know about you, but to me that seems a pretty pathetic statement. Drake Bell has stated that Nickelodeon offered him no institutional support after his abuse, and that they treated actors as expendable. Now, perhaps if Brian Peck was simply a one-off, it could just be put down to an error, an oversight. But tragically, he wasn't. Jason Michael Handy was a production assistant at Nickelodeon in the early noughties, working on shows like The Amanda Show and all that. His role involved escorting child actors on set, managing their movements and interacting with them and their parents. He was described as charismatic and friendly, often gaining the trust of both children and parents. In April 2003, Handy was investigated by the LA Police Department after there were reports about inappropriate conduct with a 14-year-old girl, whom he lured with promises of a Hollywood career. A search of his home revealed over 10,000 images. An 11-year-old girl, referred to as Brandy in the Quiet on Set docuseries, says that she received a sexual picture of him. Brandy's mother pulled her daughter from the entertainment industry, but did not immediately report the incident to avoid further trauma. In 2000, Handy abused a 9-year-old girl who was a guest star on the series Cousin Skeeter. He told her not to tell her mother, promising future TV roles. In 2004, Handy was sentenced to 6 years in prison, which is nothing compared to the lifelong trauma his victims will be living with. After his release in 2009, he offended again, and is currently in jail in Virginia with a release date of 2038. And there's more. Ezell Ethan Channel was a temporary production assistant and animator at Nickelodeon Studios. He was hired in 2005, despite being a registered sex offender. He worked on the studio lot for nearly 7 months, interacting with children and bringing them to the facility under the pretense of studio tours and school projects. The network failed to conduct a background check that would have revealed his status as a registered sex offender. In 2004, Channel befriended a 14-year-old boy, Brandon, and a 13-year-old boy, Brian, who he met at a park near Nickelodeon Studios. He gained their trust by offering them gifts and access to Nickelodeon. On one occasion, he brought Brandon to the studio under the guise of helping him with a school project, where he abused him. The disturbing cases of Handy and Channel alongside Brian Peck highlight Nickelodeon's inadequate background checks in the early 2000s. A Nickelodeon spokesman has said that both the Handy and the Channel cases prompted the network to implement stricter background checks, including for all employees and parents of child actors. But for the victims, it is of course too little, too late. The network's permissive culture, as described by several former actors, cast and crew, and the lack of proactive measures to actively protect children, suggest systemic negligence. The fact that Channel was hired, despite being on the Megan's Law registry, points to a reckless disregard for due diligence, potentially prioritising production over child safety. There are also some who believe that Nickelodeon put inappropriate content into their shows which were meant for kids. Shows like The Ren and Stimpy Show and Rocko's Modern Life were infamous for their adult humour, and more recently fans have pointed to Dan Schneider shows like Victorious and Sam and Cat for including sexual innuendo and inappropriate scenes. Social media has buzzed with clips that feel out of place in a kids show, like suggestive scenes or foot-focused gags, which some tie to Schneider's alleged personal interest. And there are an incredible amount of feet-focused jokes throughout his content. And his shows are peppered with innuendo. Take some of these scenes for example. Actress Daniela Monet reportedly flagged this scene to Nickelodeon executives, but no action was taken. Pickle Boy was a recurring skit on All That. A character with a plate of pickles would give a pickle to each celebrity guest. The most infamous example is the episode with Ray Romano. In this clip, Ray Romano is in the bathroom begging for something to eat when Pickle Boy gives him a pickle through the hole in the door.
In here. Never been this hungry. I gotta get something to eat. Hello? Anyone? A pickle. Thank you. Oh, I don't know who you are, but this pickle is the best thing that ever happened to me. Oh. That's good, Pickle. Good. Oh. You don't really appreciate pickles until you're stuck in a bathroom. Oh.
As if this innuendo wasn't enough, Pickle Boy is played by Brian Peck. Meanwhile, Snick's on-air dares included kids getting randomly chosen for gross or uncomfortable dares. In this particular dare, Brian Hearn, from All That, was forced to be covered in peanut butter from head to toe. Then dogs were sent in to lick off the peanut butter, while Hearn stayed still on the floor. Hearn looks visibly upset and uncomfortable during the episode. The entire event looks like humiliation and is obviously uncomfortable for him. Hearn later explained how uncomfortable he felt in that moment. He said that the dare felt like some awkward fantasy for some freaky dude. While Nickelodeon was known for being edgier than Disney, some argue that they crossed the line, especially under Schneider's watch. The network has defended its content, saying that scripts went through multiple approvals, in which case it's hard to see how some of those scenes got approved. Schneider has said that he had no indication that any of the kids were uncomfortable in any scenes, and if they had been, he wouldn't have done them. Looking at everything covered in this video, it's hardly surprising that so many of the child stars at Nickelodeon went on to experience mental health problems and addictions. Thrust into an adult environment with, as we've seen, little to no safeguarding, and expected to perform at a young age, places a toll on young people that for many is just too much to bear. The list of former child stars who were damaged during their time at Nickelodeon goes on and on. Amanda Bynes, Drake Bell, Jeanette McCurdy, Alexa Nicholas, Brian Hearn. Children's lives, in some cases damaged forever. So looking at all of this, what conclusions can we draw? Well, clearly, Nickelodeon failed in its most basic duty, to protect and safeguard the children who were working for the channel. These children were generating huge revenues for the network, and they thought they were working for a fun-filled kids channel. But the reality was far from this, and for many, their dreams quickly became a living nightmare. From the actions of criminal offenders, to inappropriate behaviour, to bullying and harassment, to inadequate background checks, Nickelodeon seemingly turned a blind eye to it all. Ignorance is a defence that Nickelodeon uses a lot. They had no complaints, they were not aware. But this is not enough. When working with young people, you have a responsibility to go further than this. You have to be proactive in supporting their welfare and ensuring that they are protected both physically and mentally. This is a fundamental responsibility that Nickelodeon owed to the kids who were earning them huge money. And this is where Nickelodeon failed. Nickelodeon has now promised stronger safeguards in the future, but rebuilding trust won't be easy. And of course, there is another angle here. Because the parents of those children should also be responsible for their welfare, particularly if they know they are working in an adult environment and in an industry as cutthroat as television. They bear responsibility for what happened to their children as well. And now, if your child ever gets a role on a TV or film, parents should demand to be on set as well. And if they're not permitted, perhaps that tells you something about the culture of the production itself. And so now, Nickelodeon's legacy is badly tarnished. As someone who grew up watching Nickelodeon and genuinely loving its shows, where everything seemed so bright and happy, it's disturbing to now know the dark truth of what was really going on at Nickelodeon Studios. Like all kids, growing up, I dreamed of being on Nickelodeon. Of being part of this party which looked like never-ending fun. But now we know the truth, and I will be eternally grateful that that never happened, because that childhood dream would have likely become a living nightmare.